Welcome to Weekend Project. I'm Laura Lynn of the Mama Pop Quilt Shop, and we're very happy to see you here today. Today we're working on a stuffed binding bag, basket, tisket, tasket, whatever you want to call it. We're just going to make something fun. It was actually a kind of a demand, but I did this on extra for my live streams. I'm doing a scrappy adventure, and my first one was red and gray. My second one was pink and brown. There's not a lot, because it was a lot of pink and not lots of brown, so that was in between. And the third one was my green one. So all the videos are out there for the live streams to watch each one of these. So if you want to, go check them out. And instead of, I wanted a nice reminder in case I gave all those quilts away of the project that I did. So I made a bag out of the scrappy bit. So I just did a 2.5 inch strip, normally what you would do for any sort of binding, or you can get in a jelly roll or anything like that. So it's very possible to get this done even with just a jelly roll. As you got it as a gift, you don't know what to do with it, this is what you can do with it. And then I just added pieces and pieces and pieces and just put it on that little 45 degree and added and added and added and added. You can butt them up edge to edge and just do a straight stitch if you so want to, but I kind of like the little angle piece and how it comes out in the end, because you can see it. You can see it as it goes around on the quilt, and quilt. it is like a quilt because it's kind of like a quilted bag. So as you can tell, I started off there with just a little white, and then I added the strips on the back to fill it up, and then I cut a nice shape, and then I started, did I start on the inside or start on the outside? I started on the inside. Here it is. I even left it raw so you could see it, okay? So you can see how raw that is, and I still have to tack it, fold it. I probably should have not left the binding all the way up to the top, but I didn't know what I was doing, so I was just figuring out I was just going along. So, and I did do a binding all the way around this little inner project to begin with, hence the checkered. You can see the checkered there. And then I just butted up against the side and then fed it into the machine, and then just did a nice zigzag all the way around this nice little oval shape, or whatever this is, and then just continuous and added. If you were wanting something more of a straight sort of bag, I'd make marks. Like make a mark on here, so you were lining up every 20 inches, you know, you were coming up to that point, or whatever you had going on, just if you went that way. I liked it a little bit more organically. I was hoping to get bigger as I was going along, which is what I achieved, because as you go around and around and around and around, you're adding that width of this fabric-y rope all the way around. So you're adding that width every single turn, right? So it made it nice and big and baskety-like, which I was hoping for to be able to put all my stashes in of my fabric. So it has been very useful, and you've seen it on lots of the live streams. And so I've had lots of questions about it and how I made it. So we're going to do something very similar today, but in these pink and blues that I had left over from the scrap. So I have, obviously pink was still in the bucket. I had to empty this of the blue because we're finished it. It's right behind me, so we're very happy about that. And tomorrow we start the new one of orange and yellow. So very, very excited. So what we need to do here, I have approximately 68 feet of fabric rope, or so far going on here. And I need to add a little bit more. So I'm going to show you how I'm adding it. What did I do with my bits? Oh, it's like, what did they go? They fell on the floor. So I need to add some more. So, and I'll show you, I've been literally just using any leftover batting that I had. I had quite a bit left over from the charity quilt. So I had a lot of this and a bit of this 80-20 here as well. So I'm just chopping it up and using it as I go. Like some of these are smaller pieces. I mean, great for a placemat, but I can also, you know, try and make a really funky bag out of it too. So those are just some of my bits that we'll be using up along the way. Okay. So what we have here is, we'll find our end. We always need an end. And I was alternating. I was going pink and blue, pink and blue, pink and blue, pink and blue. Just having whatever fun I wanted. All right, so we just put them like this, cross them over each other, just kind of like what we were doing last weekend project with the placemat behind me. It's always a chaos around here. Placemat behind me, or the table runner behind me. And then, of course, you had the ones opposite angle if you wanted to. I mean, you don't have to do it. You can do it any way you like. Like I said, if you don't want to do these extra pieces, then you're never going to get a full bucket. So do the extra pieces. That's going to make an awesome bag, let me tell you. So you just sew it from the one corner to the next, and then that gives you a nice continuous piece of fabric to work with. But don't chop this off. Get it back under there. Do another 1/4 inch, even just the foot, just the width of the foot. Go all the way down, and then you take your little rotary cutter or your scissors or whatever it is that you're happy with using around here, okay? And then you just right in between those two lines and off to the bucket that goes, and you have a nice continuous piece. So next piece needs to be blue. Actually, let's take this piece. This was actually Jo Marie's backing to one of her tulip quilt, and I really liked it. I didn't steal it from her, she gave it to me. You can ask her. She gave me all the extra bits, and I loved it. So I wanted to add this little piece because it made me very, very happy. And whenever I see it, it will always make me very, very happy. All right, so you just do the 2 little lines and you get that extra piece. I've been working on this bucket since last year. And this is a great way with this project that I have come up with between this and, you know, doing this again. And I did another project with a sewing student that was very similar. He made a basket for Easter for his grandma's house, and he loved it, and so did she. And it's a great way to, you know, I'm like, I have to build these pieces somehow. So this is how I'm using some scraps and being a little inventive in how I'm using them. Trying to. And making unique pieces of, you know, art. Call it that. One person's trash is one person's treasure. Is that the saying? All right, and then we got one more piece of blue, and then we can start continuing on with the batting, and I'll show you that. So I just wanted to make sure you understood how I was getting my rope, how I was building it, going from A to B to Z and so on and so forth. So this should approximately give me about 75 feet, 75 to 80 feet of rope. This bag was way more than that. I think the red part, the gray and red part itself, I do believe I measured at 150 feet, and then it was about the same for the rest. So this is obviously going to be a smaller bag or a smaller basket, and I'm going to not start off with the base. I'm going to start off with the end and then just kind of curl it to do like maybe a continuous circle going around and around like a big swirl. So hopefully it works out. That's the plan. Cross your fingers. Okay, now that's all I'm gonna add, and you don't have to stop there. Like on the top here, I attached it. I came back and I attached it, flipped it over and attached it there. But you can just leave it raw. Like you can just leave it open. You can make this a continuous project if this is how you want to keep your scraps, right? This is how you want to keep, you know, tabs on things or projects or whatever, like I was. Little memory project. Okay. So, and as for getting the batting inside this 2.5 inch strip, I was cutting the batting at 2 inches, okay? So then that gave you plenty of room to be able to flip the raw edges in. Maybe if Munchkin can get a little close in there, because he's doing the filming today. And, you know, and then just be able to tuck those 2 raw edges together with the batting in between. You can see that. Let's make a little sandwich, you know, it's like wrapping it all up. And then you fold it over again. And then you're just going to stitch down. As you can see, those stitches right there, you stitch all the way down and just continue on, putter, 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 putter. I was just using a pink and purple thread, whatever I had going on here, very light colors. Once you get all this done first, you're making your fabric rope or whatever it's called. I don't know if it's got a specific name to it. I'm just going to call it fabric rope. And then you start, you're going to start at this end or whatever end you want to go at, and then just start folding it in on itself, curling it, and then working it around, and then keep just doing a little zigzag and zigzag and zigzag, and you know, it'll end up getting there eventually. You'll work it. Okay, so we're gonna sew. We're gonna continue on here. And then I'll show you how you add batting pieces. And I've got poly in here, and like I said, I got 20/20 or 20/20. That's 20/20 vision, 80/20 mix. So it's a combination. It's got a bit of both. The poly you can tell is a bit thicker. This one, you know, when it comes to the 80/20, it's a little bit thinner, but you know, it's just going to add texture. Okay, so you just put it in the center. I'll try and go with the small camera here so you can really see what I'm doing. Put it in the center and just rolling those two raw edges to the inside, making sure they're all snug together, and then just feeding it through the machine, trying to keep those two folded edges. You're sewing on those two folded edges, okay? And then that's making sure all those little raw edges are all tucked in here and they're not popping out, going to be fraying or anything like that, okay? You could use a contrasting thread, a complementary thread, a variegated thread. I think would be really awesome if you were due to zigzag that way. I think that would be very fun to look at. You know, like I said, it's kind of like, you know, the Camden Bowl we did at the beginning of 2017. I don't know when that was. I think so. It was around there. I think it was New Year's Eve we were doing that. A lot ago anyways. That was a very fun project to do. So it's very similar because you're making a fabric rope as that as well, but you're making the strip of that color. And then you're sewing those strips together, building up your width of whatever basket, bag, or whatever you wanted to build out, right? So there's lots of options there too. This is one continuous piece and you're feeding it around and around and around and around to make this unique, like this one here, this very unique project that I will have forever. And I'll always remember, you know, the triangle quilt that I made up, the pink and bear paw, and the green bargello. I'll always remember those and all the fun that we had, because you were there with me, pretty much making it 80% of the time along the way, you know, all the fun we had. So thank you for the memories. Thank you very much. And so now I have at least a start on the blue because we just finished the blue, but this will go to something else. I have another idea for this because I just put the pink and the blue together. But think of all the colors you can make. You know, the orange and white and you know, purple and gray, especially if you had a theme for your bathroom. Make a basket for the bathroom. That's where the hairbrush goes and your elastics and the bandanas and or whatever, you know. If you're very accident prone like us, you have a Band-Aid and polysporin basket. It happens. Band-Aids and polysporin. All right, so we're getting to the point where I'm gonna have to add another piece of batting. So I'll show you how I get there or how we do it. It's just a wee bit of overlapping. You don't want too much because then it makes that section too thick. So you just want a little bit, like 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch overlap between your old stuffing and your new stuffings. Okay, so just line that up. And I really like, see how that's the different in between, how it's, you know, pieced and stuff like that. It's on that angle. I really like that look. But it doesn't mean that you can't just butt them up together. If you don't like doing that 45 degree, then, you know, you don't have to. Okay, so you take your next piece, and I'll show up to the little camera here, and you're just gonna overlap. See, you can either tuck it under, whatever makes you feel comfortable, or over top. I've just been doing it over top. And then you're gonna hold that, and you're gonna pinch those fabrics over, and you're gonna pinch them and hold them together. Here, let me just get it straight here, okay? You're just gonna pinch and hold them together and then roll them. And then make sure that when you stitch your next, you know, stream of stitching, that you go past that mark where you're pinching. And then that way you know it's nice and secure. And if you stop with your needle down, you're not gonna have it moving, shifting, or coming out on you, okay? So hold really tight, pinch where it is, where it's overlapped. Just feed on in, keeping a hold of where it's pinched. See how I just kind of, you kind of see that, like riding a roller coaster, that little bump. And then you know it's all stitched together. But don't yank too hard, just in case you may not have it all by the time you get over it. You know, just kind of wiggle your way. You know it's snug, but you know you're not yanking on it. And then just keep feeding on through and just finish. Get your fabric rope. Okay, got a little bit more to go. And then we can start building our basket. A tisket, a tasket, a little Easter basket. Do, 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 do. Just be sure your batting isn't getting twisted around in there. That can make for some weird stuff. So just make sure it's nice and straight. That's why if you cut it, see how it's you got a little bit here and a little bit here of that fabric. That way, if you were to have it 2.5 inches and 2.5 inches, you'd have it stuffing out like you ate too much at the all-you-can-eat buffet. So you just need to make sure it's a little bit smaller than your fabric chunk, your fabric size, okay? And of course, you can make this any size. You can have this thick. Could you imagine a nice thick one going around? Something maybe not that thick, but like maybe a 3.5 inch strip or something like that, and 3-inch batting. That would be unique. You don't always have to use the 2.5. I just thought it was a nice, easy cut that a lot of people have on hand and keep handy because of a binding and to the jelly rolls, and a lot of people store their scraps in 2.5-inch strips or so on and so forth. So because it's always easy to use, right? There's so many patterns out there with 2.5-inch strips. So okay, so we're almost at the end. I will show you how I cut a piece because I would like to finish this one off, even though it's really close. But I will show you how I cut it. Okay. See how close that is? So it probably really wouldn't matter, but I'll show you anyways how I was cutting. Okay, we'll use the smaller piece, but the principle's still the same. Okay, fold it. Make sure you have that fold on a nice straight line. Okay, and then you have a flat piece, or you make a flat piece. You know what I mean? Because you're on a straight line at this point in time, right? So you're on the flat piece, and you're on the stretch on here, and then you just cut 2 inches. Okay, I know it's so easy to remember to cut 2.5, but just cut 2 and cut 2, and then just cut whatever it is that you need. And then you just take that and you overlap it. Make sure that's sitting in the center there approximately. That's why you have a little extra on either side. There we go. And then just roll it and pinch it and just keep going. And like I said, if you wanted this to be a continuous project that you want to at least start on it and you couldn't be able to finish it because, you wanted to have a whole year what you did throughout the year, this would be, we started off like that. So just leave the raw edge of the batting and the raw edge of the fabric. I'd give yourself at least 3 or 4 inches. So that way, you can be able to flip and flop to get that 45-degree on the cut if you're continuous to do that way, right? So beautiful colors in here. Hopefully it looks cute when it's all done. So you can hear what boom, boom. All right, so we'll do a little bit more closer to the edge. Like I said, give myself about that 3 inches, just in case I change my mind and want to add more. Okay. All right, so you know how that is. Now let's go with the other end here. Look how pretty that is. I think it's cool. Okay, now how do we form our center? Okay, this is obviously, it's got about 1.5 inches of just fabric, and then the batting starts, okay? So I'm gonna wanna make sure that those raw edges are tucked in, okay, before we start, because we don't want any raw edges if we don't want them, if they're not needed, let's not have them. And then you're just gonna kind of want to roll it onto itself. You're gonna want to maybe give a 2 inches or 1 inch or something like that, and then let's zigzag that down, and then we can start working our way around this as some sort of a base. Okay, so let's change ourselves to a zigzag, and I go really tight, like 0.6. And then for the width of the stitch, to try and make it a little bit bigger, so I go about 4. So I'm making sure it's tight, but it's trying to reach both bits of fabric to get both sides in, okay? Bad talking. Okay, so like I said, just kind of folded it over on itself. Give myself, what is it? Yeah, it's about 2 inches there. Okay. Keep my raw edge folded in there. All right. We'll get it. And then squish it under. Do a little bit of the ziggity zag. Keep those two together. Don't zigzag your finger, because that'll hurt. Okay. Here, so the small camera, you see that? See, it's all stitched together. Okay. And now we're just going to kind of work our way around. Work our way around the corner. And then just keep ziggity zagging. Okay. Try and form it as it's going here, because we need to come up against that top edge. Okay. A lot of foot ups, I am sure, but that's just how it works until you're getting yourself established. But make sure you're always in fabric whenever you're foot upping. Okay, and then just twisting it. Okay, and then twist it. And of course it gets easier as you're getting around and around and around. That's why I think I started off with that one, to kind of get an idea first of how to get that around my brain first, because I've never done one of these before except for the Camden bowl that I did, right? So it was a nice way to understand it and then proceed and then think, oh, well, maybe we could do something a little bit different, you know, like like a continuous one instead of one based off of a, you know, somewhat of a different fabric base than it itself, right? And you're going to have to be a bit of a bully, kind of pushing it around a bit and pushing it through. Okay. I prefer to stop on the outside, but I stopped on the inside on that one. Okay, so you can see how it's getting there. It's starting to do its little circle going all the way around. Okay. And depending on, you know, what you're trying to make, you may have to take your bottom plate out here and be able to continuously roll it around in the next throat here, right? So it depends. It, you know, depends on what you got going on. But if you just keep kind of puttering around, maybe at not at Mach 45 as I work, but you know, whatever you're comfortable with. And if you need to pop some pins in, I'm not sure how that would really work because you're butting up the fabrics together, but I'm sure you could think of something, maybe some different kind of pins. So I like it that it's rolling up because I want to make some sort of a bowl, a carrier of something. I don't want to make something flat. I'm not making a carpet, you know, and I don't want to make a carpet. I'm not making a table runner, and I'm not making a placemat or anything like that. I want something to hold things. You know, that's the point of the projects, right? So you just keep rolling it, trying to butt up those edges, okay? Sometimes you're gonna have to stop and reposition. You're gonna have to lift your foot. Okay, you realize, oh, I haven't been stitching on there, so I got a little hole. Well, don't worry about the hole now. Continue on, and you can always come back and fix any holes. But sometimes, depending on what you use it for, you may want the little hole there, you know? So. You know, make a fruit basket for the counter sort of thing. Okay. There's lots of options you can do with your scraps. You know, even someone's having a new baby, so, you know, make that like the baby basket. That's where all the diapers and the baby powder and the wipes and everything else, they all hang out there. This is decorative. Okay. So you just keep going and going and going and going and going, and then you're just going to end up keep going in a circle. That's, you know, that's or an oval, whatever shape you start off here. You could start off with a square, start off a nice big oval instead of trying to butt it up, you know, one next to the other of the 2 inches. So you probably can't see much because it's starting to curve on itself, right? But there's many ways. You just got to play around with the fabric, and you'll discover something that is fun for you, right? Like I said, lots of repositioning, lots of foot up and foot down, trying to get the right shape or right position to make sure both fabrics are getting stitched under. Like I said, I wouldn't worry about the little holes at first. You're like, oh, I missed an inch there or whatever. Like I said, just stitch it on up, and if you decide that that's irritating you or whatever, you can come back with a couple of whip stitches with the hand needle, or just get it back underneath the machine for some zigzag. Okay. And you are going to use a lot of thread, bobbin, and top, because you're doing a lot of zigzag along this whole structure, and you're giving it structure along the way. You are stabilizing it with those zigzaggy stitches, right? So it's a double bonus when you've got the batting, the fabric, and then the zigzaggy stitches. And I'm not sure what other stitch you would want to use besides zigzag to be able to ensure you were getting both bits of fabric. I was looking at the machine, I can't really think of anything, so. Unless you were doing like a hand stitch of like big X's, you know how you do like a big cross stitch, X them together as a, you know, that would be a fun road trip project. You get this done first before you leave, and then you can work on that as you're going. That would be kind of fun, with big X's of the, you know, with floss or something, or hand quilting threads, so. This braid's going to be an Easter hat. Somebody's getting an Easter hat. And then if you want a handle, I'll show you here. If you just want a handle on it, you just zigzaggy along, position where you want the handle to go. Stop there by doing some back stitches. Make sure you back stitch, because that's a lot of pressure on these stitches here on either side. Leave the gap that you want. Start back up again, zigzag again the back stitching, and then just keep going. And that gives you your whatever space of handle you want, or if you want, you know, whatever else. You know, if you want 3 handles on this or 5 handles on this, you could have done it all the way around to be, no matter which way you grab it, it's still a basket, right? So it's a great way to reinforce, and it takes a lot of weight too. So, because I've had it stuffed and then some. So, yeah. So just be creative. Think outside the box or the bag. Or basket, at this case. Just get a tasket. Me get an Easter basket. Okay. And you just keep going and going and going and going. Like I said, always adjust, readjust the fabric, line her up. And I thought the difference between having a pink and a blue and a pink and a blue and a pink and a blue would be kind of fun. Just, you know, nice and springy like. Matching my shirt today. Okay, we'll do a little bit more. And this is where you may actually have to go and switch. See, I'll show you what I'm going to do. See how it was building up on the before on the top? If I can get this under here, under this way, to feed it this way, that little bottom in the way, maybe I can tuck that in a bit. Try and find a good position for you to be able to, you know, feed the fabrics from one to the other, right? Even if you have to do a bit of fighting with that at first. It does get easier as it gets bigger. The project gets bigger, but yeah, it's a lot of maneuvering and foot up and down, but it ends up with a beautiful thing in the end. You know, I use my my bowl, my Camden bowl, every night. holds the remote and my old lady glasses for hand stitching and my threads and some needles and my yarn for crocheting or knitting. And maybe a snack, just in case. All right, well, that's pretty much weekend project, and I'm just going to keep building. See this? Yeah, I'm not going to worry about that hole until I get, later on. If it bothers me, then I'll worry about it. So that's pretty much weekend project. I'm going to keep building this up. So watch for pictures at the end, okay? And you'll see it all finished up and how it came about. It's been my little beehive patch. I got all this to do. And chaos to ensue. All right, have a great day, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow on the live stream. Okay, take care. Big hugs, everybody. Got work to do.